think the conversation we've been having is like a little bit artists taking their own content and doing their own thing versus the gallery. But I'm like, if you look at the gallery, like they're literally doing the same.
Yeah,
They're literally just making content about your work. So it's like, why wouldn't you just own that pipeline?
yeah, definitely. How do you say your last name?
Hashemzadeh.
Hashemzadeh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, I get confused for for
good.
someone that speaks Farsi, for someone that speaks Arabic. Are you? Is it Iranian?
Iranian,
Yeah.
Are you background? Is it Iranian?
No, I'm Cuban, but
yeah, that's why I thought you said that.
everybody, but like people literally speak Farsi to me, and I was talking to somebody. I think it's Latinos with beards. We get that a lot, and I've spoken Spanish to somebody that is Persian. That like just I think it's just L.A.
That's the degree of our separation. Is just some facial hair.
Yeah, definitely. I think we come from Spain, so it makes a little sense.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of Semitic people up in Spain, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of tied to the same trade.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So makes sense. So it's like Hashem, like God in Hebrew, right? Hashem. And then Zadeh.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not Jewish?
I'm not Jewish.
Okay.
It was totally random.
Everybody fucking, like, bro, Middle East, just chill. You're all chilling.
Yeah. I know people think I'm super, like, it got to be Israeli or Jewish or something. Joshua.
I get that too. Yeah.
Is like, nah.
No. Okay. Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm your host, Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Josh Hashemzadeh, right?
Hashemzadeh, you got it.
Okay, all right, cool.
You've nailed it every time we've done
it. All right, I just hesitate. Okay. Okay, so you are like tangentially associated with me, like we've
This is true.
We are like Emily and all of them, and you've shown at Monte Vista projects before, or you curated?
I've curated with some of the crew in Monte Vista. Like I put like Raheem in a couple shows and stuff when I was working in a gallery and stuff, and my friend Chris as well.
Oh, so you didn't curate at Monte Vista? You curated
for some of the people that were there, and then we just kind of hung out through gallery openings and stuff. But I'm tied in with like the programming there, and have met a lot of the core team, at least in like 2019, 2020, and then after COVID, I think everyone just
the core team is now me and another person.
Okay.
No, the core team is bigger than that, but I just hang out with Molly a lot. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But okay, cool. So then, like, where are you originally from? Are you a California kid?
I am a California kid, Valley, born and raised.
Okay.
So LA has been home. So it was cool seeing like art complexes or like collectives kind of popping up in the city.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like they're just kind of come in waves, but if you can find one that you click with, like, it's
yeah.
always a vibe.
Well, I mean, I think that one of the reasons that Monte Vista works is because like no one's burdened to be there forever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's one of those things that just every year is kind of new.
Yeah, like we just whenever we need people, we get them. But right now we're not as tight knit as in the past. I think just because like COVID and all of that, and people are having a hard time making it out to shows and stuff. But so then you went to school out here. What's your education background?
Yeah, so my background, I studied art at the San Francisco Art Institute.
Okay.
So I did my undergrad there, and then moved back to LA, and then was just working as an artist primarily, through my early 20s, and then had taken some museum and kind of art jobs, and then eventually was curating at a gallery called Bake Art for like 3 years. I was on La Cienega once upon a time before COVID, and then basically after that just kind of shifted back into making my work, and I was kind of making it the whole time, but also making content and just doing different things, as I think we all are now.
Well, we cover a lot on the show how it's like a second job for most people.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I've seen some of those clips and they're factual as fuck.
I think one of the main points that I try to make on this show is just how easy it is. All you have to do is be nice. Like if
100%.
you're a dick, then it's not that easy. But word travels fast in this.
Especially now, no one will share your content.
No one will share your content. You got to be like a super polite. But yeah. So then, what was the scene like in San Francisco?
It was interesting. So like I went up there, and I mean that was kind of, I don't know if you know about San Francisco Art Institute, but it just recently actually shuttered. And,
I heard a lot of people were upset.
Yeah, and it's crazy just because it's like a 150-year-old arts institution, and like I mean Rothko taught there and stuff. So it's like just like this crazy lineage, and so like being there kind of at the tail end of that, you're like, were we responsible? Like what happened here? But
what year did you graduate?
I was 2016.
2016
undergrad. Yeah.
That sucks, dude. Like, does that at all affect like I mean, does
I mean, it doesn't change anything really, but I think it's just cool, like when you think about like your cohort of like artists and like the kind of thing with Monta Vista, right? Like having that collective kind of fabric, being like, oh, I got alumni and stuff that I can hit up, and I do have like relationships with some of the people that obviously I went to school with, and some people from other years and stuff. So I think we've kind of like kept in contact, but it's like been
mm,
so much more reliant on like the artist than like the actual institution, which I think to your point, right? It's like artists are always having to work two jobs or like have
yeah,
to really
yeah.
manage the infrastructure around what they're doing as well as what they're doing. And I think like
Well,
to
then
have paid that much to an institution to try and like take some of that off your plate, you're like, oh man, you were here for 5 years after I graduated, you know?
yeah, that sucks. No, and then I mean, one of the things that's kind of cool about like at least that I've seen from Monta Vista is that a lot of like alumni work with the new generation from their class,
Oh
right?
hell yeah,
Like
yeah.
I know that at CSUN, there's like a lot of the people that I've had on the show simply because Emily Blythe Jones like was really supportive of them, and that's how they came into my awareness. You know, like that they were hanging out at Monta Vista projects, or
That 1 degree of
yeah,
separation, you
that one
know?
degree exactly, like the same thing that
Yeah.
with us, where we have 1 degree of separation. Um, but yeah, so then you said, well, you've mentioned content creation, you've mentioned art. Like, how do you feel those two are different? Like, because that's an issue that I'm struggling with
You're
because
facing?
they're both practices.
They are. I mean, I think like that's probably a good space to be investigating or to be dealing with. I think in terms of your practice and stuff, I think it's probably poignant. And everyone's gonna probably have their own take on it. But for me, I think they're two in the same. I had a professor once tell me like, you know, you're making art when it's the first thing you think about in the morning and the last thing you think about going to bed.
Hmm.
And I think like if you think about your brand or you think about the content that you got to make or whatever, and I'm like, if that's what you're thinking about and that's like what's on the checklist or the to do, then like that's probably the content or the art that you're making, right?
Yeah,
Like whether it's performative or however you want to look at it. But I'm like, if you're making even for a painter, right? Like I'm documenting my work and stuff, and it's like sometimes I'm spending as much time on that as I am on the painting, if not more,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like just proportionally. And I'm like, so what is the extension of what, right? Is it like this is content about a painting, or is this painting really about content? You know, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
what am I? It's like chicken and the egg kind of thing. So
Well, and it is such a. I think ultimately what content means is like it's a placeholder for things that are contained within a container, right? So it's such a
yeah,
funny word where it's like it's essentially the business world's word for art because they don't like,
1,000%.
and to some degree it's maybe more validating because like most people don't want to pay for art but they'll pay for content, which is a
Or they
weird.
won't pay for content; they'll just tune in, which is great.
Oh no, what I mean about like organizations in a
Oh,
business,
oh,
like
oh.
you know, like if you're going to like if I'm a organization and I see a content creator, yeah, maybe I'll try to lowball them, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that people just don't even contact artists; they'll just fucking
Just
jack their
take
shit, like, and just
dibs.
appropriate, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, that happens for
because they
sure.
just know that there's no lawyers. So like once you're in the content space, it's a weird mental shift because I do think that people would probably like in the business realm would probably value content more than art, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Right now, there's like all these bids on like these huge YouTube backlogs, right? Where
yeah,
like brands totally unrelated to the actual creator are just like, hey, we want your backlog to place ads on and stuff, and it's like all of a sudden they have like entitlement to the entire like brand and all that stuff, and it's like it's weird how artists get used for that, and I think like sometimes they're getting paid a little bit more now because of content. Like at least there's something to account for it,
yeah,
like it's a timestamp almost, you know. But yeah, I think it's tough, and I think also just for artists to think about it in terms of like their own organization, like thinking of like what they're doing as more of like, you know, how do I support myself on this than needing like a gallery or you know another institution to tell me I'm good or whatever, you know. It's like
yeah. And I think the institution thing, it's like a lot of people that are chasing that realm of the art world are so bitter by it, you know, embittered by it, and don't feel empowered by it, like because there's some level of submission that needs to take place.
yeah,
You're subservient in a way where I mean, obviously, like I've definitely worked for Google, right?
yeah,
Like I don't delude myself. I work for Instagram. If I say we were talking about
yeah.
like how Instagram while I was setting up, like they're my boss. Like if they don't like something I say, I got to
That's so
deal with
true,
it, you know? Like I can't complain. Like that's HR,
for sure.
right? So it's a really interesting thing cuz it's empowering, but it's also like it limits what you can say, right? Like you
It's
can't.
true.
I've slowly realized like there are things you cannot talk about.
Algorithms, yeah,
With
they're
the
no joke.
algorithms will just they just and what we were saying is that what the Twitter files
Yeah.
shows is that it's like it's personal. It's not even like algorithmic. It's like a lot of times it's just like click.
Yeah, and there's nothing that you can do in terms of like, let me give context to that, or like let me
Yeah.
try and like argue the fact or something. So yeah, I can understand why that's scary, and I think it's probably scary for artists too. Like right, like if Gagosian doesn't like something about content or
Oh yeah,
whatever
for
you're
sure.
posting, it's like there's always someone that I think artists are having to please, which I think is kind of unfortunate. But at least with content, it's not just like one entity, and like you kind of can steer the ship
Yeah.
as you want. It's like if Instagram's not doing, check YouTube or like check TikTok or whatever. And there's always like the next thing that comes out too that disrupts it. But I think like with a gallery, like artists are there for like 30 years. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, yo, you have my entire career in your hands. Like, am I gonna be famous? Am I gonna be rich? Like how am I gonna do this? And like it's hard for one person to give you answers on that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think it's dope that artists are taking it on and being like, you know what? I see how many artists are on Instagram or whatever, and I'm like, there's no way a gallery, like, there's just not enough galleries in the world to give everyone shows all the time and like do all that. So I'm like, you have to have another format, right? You have to have like another platform to go off of, and I think they can complement each other. But it's like
Yeah, yeah.
it's just dope to be able to like be like, oh, actually, like I can build this on my own terms and look at it as an extension of my practice. Honestly, I think that's sick.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I mean, because that's basically what I've been trying to do, and a lot of it when I talk about this stuff, it does feel like I'm rationalizing my own choices.
Yeah, why am I here? Like,
it's like,
is this okay?
it's like, well, we think what I'm doing is valid.
Yeah. Why don't y'all? Yeah, no, I feel that.
No, but that also begs the question, like, how do you feel about people that are very precious about their content? And by content I mean art.
And by art, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, they become interchangeable. But I think it's something where like I've definitely been there too, and I think everyone should want to perfect what they're doing, right? Like you should always find rooms for improvement. Like you've mentioned before, like, oh, like it's an editing thing on this video that I could have like tweaked up or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think painters are doing that all the time, right? Like usually you have like a subject matter or a series or something, and then you're making like how many iterations of that. So it's like I think content really is the same thing. If you just took like a painting, right? Like the format for that is a rectangle. you know, like how do we break away from that rectangle and then
You're
really...
you're breaking people's hearts right
Yeah,
now.
I'm like, it's like, but it's cool, and I think like
you're like the Elon Musk of the art world right now.
maybe.
No,
I
I'm
just
kidding.
feel like
You're so pragmatic. I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm just saying. I'm just thinking about what people are hearing right now.
I definitely like am pragmatic about it, and I think like we have to be realistic to a certain extent too, because I'm not making paintings in the impressionist era. It's like I'm making paintings in 2022, and everyone's kind of got their own perspective on it. But yeah, I think like if you think about what art is trying to do, and this kind of comes to the thesis, so maybe good like full circle. But like I have this phrase that I put on a lot of like my merch and stuff like that. Is art is not a noun. So thinking about art as like action, right? Art as verb, and thinking about like art as discourse and collaboration and all that stuff. And I think like if you think about what art is, or like what it's actually trying to do, it's usually just like conveying information. It's just like it's a communication vessel, just using pictures instead of words, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why would a rectangle be the only format to present that objective, right? It's like we have all these other tools, film, music, like there's so many mediums, but like painters think that they have to paint in rectangles. Like, it's like film has to be 2 hours, right? It's like TV shows have to be 20 minutes. It's
You
like
just reminded me of did you ever watch Battlestar Galactica where they have the paper that's like has the corners cut off?
No, I remember that show.
They just have stacks of papers like phone book stacks style.
But all the corners are cut off.
Kids, there used to be a thing called phone books. So like they just cut off the corners, and it's funny that you say that because maybe I would say it's probably because it's
breaking the rectangle. Like I like that.
Well, yeah, but like when I saw that, I was like, that's so inefficient because that's 4 more cuts.
Yeah, that's true.
So, to some degree, there is like an optimal. I get what you're saying. Like there's the. It's funny what you're saying also because like. Typically, I don't even think of painting traditionally as being a canvas thing, like frescoes and stuff. I mean, I know
cave painting is like where it started.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it's like the materials.
The rectangle was intentional, and I think like it came from a very specific culture and like lineage, right? And I think that that's cool, and like it has its place in art history. But it's weird that like everyone's cultural experience needs to fit into that cultural format.
I wonder how common. Now I'm just starting to think about the history of the square page, and now I'm like,
blew your mind.
I'm like, well, when did we start doing the page? Let's look at the. But I mean,
well,
if you
tablets,
guys,
right? So it's like once we had like like scribes on rock and stuff, like.
No, but I'm speaking specifically of like because I imagine like the first press paper, specifically
Papyrus or whatever.
papyrus. That shit wasn't like square unless you cut it, right?
Yeah, so, it was like all jagged edge.
Yeah, and then we have like art papers that are all torn edges. So like, but then I'm trying to think about how like anyway. I just went off on an artist tangent that maybe shouldn't be the focal point of the art thing. But it is interesting, like how simple a shape that is. But I get what you're saying, like. It's almost like you're stripping down a surface to its most basic like dimensions, like, and most efficient way of getting it down as your base of operation, right? But that still is an object in and of itself.
It is. And I think so like that's my whole thing is like my background is very heavily influenced by like conceptual art, right? So like material choices, presentation, all these things are like highly, important to how you're experiencing that. It's not just like the illusion of like a painting as like the end goal, right? So it's like the illusion of like these objects in a room make you think of this idea and like you've realized something. It's like that's kind of more the approach. And I think if you think about like why you're making art, like what is this painting about? And that's such a didactic, I think, statement for people. Like artists are always like, oh, I don't really know what my art is about, or it's like about 10 million things. But it's like when you present it in a room or you present it to a person, like whatever context that is, it's like structured in a way to have a certain experience with that work, right? And it's like kind of comes back to Duchamp notion of like viewership is needed to like make something actually art, right? Like an object or a painting in a room with no one in it is just kind of like this dead sculpture or whatever, or like object. But then as soon as you like put it in a gallery or create like a viewer angle to it, then all of a sudden now there's like this reciprocal engagement that becomes like the thing that we call art, right? So it's like I think like that is something that I find really interesting. If artists just approached it and like, what am I trying to create in this context? Whatever message that is, whatever like interpersonal thing I'm trying to like work through, whatever it may be, like there's no wrong answer there. But it's like, why does all of that have to fall into one like square rectangle that you got from Blake? And like, I think looking at content as a way to be like, I want to have the same conversation I'm having in a painting, but like with a person in my house in front of my paintings or whatever. It's like that becomes like just another way to, I think, to look at art and like your creative toolbox, right?
I get what you're saying. So like people are experiencing, because there is always that conversation about the difference between seeing something in a textbook versus seeing it in person.
Yeah.
But then seeing it like on your television on YouTube, I guess it is a different context, right? Like where now you're sitting alongside like less. I think that's kind of where people struggle with it, right? Like and I think I've mentioned like thought of this before and said it on the show before, but I think the problem that people have with, I guess, that distinction is that like are fitness content creators making art, and
I'd say
I kind of am with you on that.
I kind of would say and I think like also like how many people of the purists, right, like work or paintings that are about like challenging monolithic institutions and stuff like that, and like upending like prejudice and all these things. And it's like you're all about that, but then when you have a format that makes something more accessible, you push back on it because it's not romantic enough or whatever. It's like it's just a weird line. And I think people always have their own kind of like divisions on like where they stand on stuff, which is chill. But like if you really boil it down, it's like, what are you actually doing like in the studio? Like if I'm here painting and thinking about something and trying to convey that, or I'm here in my studio editing something and trying to convey that, or making music, or like whatever it is, we're starting a business, or like it could be any which way. I mean, even sports, like you're talking about like World Cup, that to me is art. It's performative, right? And then like the ecosystem around that and the viewership around that is there, which by Duchampian notions, right, makes it art. So,
and it's like very, very dark art. How much of that do you think is just outdated stuff that comes from like the education system? Because that's a point that I've made.
Maybe 120%.
120%. Okay. So then the thing that I've said on episodes before you agree with, I don't think they've come out yet, but I think that this has been like, like every now and then I get on a thread and it pops out on 3 episodes.
Yeah. We'll do a tie-in wherever there's like a box. We'll click to that.
Yeah, just click. Or comment below if you know which episode we're talking about. That's my new thing also. Like if we have a question that we don't have the answer answer to. Just be like, hey, you know, because sometimes I'll ask questions to somebody that's not an expert, so they don't know, you know. But I'm just like curious in the way that I'm curious. I'm like, oh, you're not a book.
Yeah, no, it's good, I think, to have like multiple firsthand sources and like be able to like, I think that's like part of the content, right? It's like thinking about other people's perspectives on things. Like if I want to make a painting about portraiture, like I'm not making that in a vacuum. Like you're making it in the context of all portraiture that's ever existed ever. So I think like having content where you can like bring in other people and like perspectives and stuff, like it just makes the work more dynamic, and I think it adds longevity to like whatever you're doing as a creative person, right?
Yeah, that is one thing that, I mean, it's funny because it's a bunch of like, it's a backlog of stuff that I don't necessarily want to go and listen to all of it, because I'm half of it. I'm half of every conversation, and I've already probably listened to it enough as I put it out. But it is interesting to just have that record. I do find that when you're making content, which maybe is something that could be off-putting to like the typical artist, because I know that there is something to like that privacy that I'm slowly losing. But like, for example, I hadn't met you, and if I had met you in a context that like, you know, that like at a gallery opening,
right,
a lot of times people already have some exposure to me, like especially at the Bendix, because it's like our little clique.
Crew,
yeah. It's not like if I go to Joan or if I go to like, you know, Hauser and Wirth, no one gives a fuck. And it's not like I'm a celebrity, but it's not like people are like impressed by me or anything like that, but they just have heard of me.
It's community.
And so, and I think that is an interesting thing, because I've never had that as an artist where people are like, oh, you know, like, or
isn't that weird though?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird that like you painted and you did all the things you were told you're supposed to do, and like you wrote all the things and made all the paintings, and then now all of a sudden like a podcast is like the thing that gets people talking about you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a wild experience, and you know, I'm obviously not going to stop, but as I try to go for it and get bigger, I start to have these questions of things that I've never thought of as an artist. You know, like just as the base of an artist, my expectations for success are so much fucking lower. Does that make sense? Isn't it wild? Like, and I think it is because of that gatekeeper sort of aspect of it. And like, definitely. And there's just, I mean, there's really little way of learning how to do it. I mean, obviously there's so many different ways of being an artist, but in terms of like getting gallery representation and all of that, like it's mystical to me, because they didn't teach that shit at my BFA program.
It's because everyone in the BFA program, we're still trying to figure it out. Like, you know, it's like
and the teachers too.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they're teaching because like, you know, I mean, no offense to teachers or anything. It's like, I think it's dope, but it's like, if you're not coming from an experience where you're like, hey, I got my art in all these galleries and like, I made a career in that, like, and you're here teaching a class to help kids that want to do that, achieve that, like, how are you actually going to help? You know, it's like,
are we like the same dude, bro? I'm just the Cuban but also Persian looking version of you.
We're 1 degree separation, man. It's all that. It all comes back down to that.
No, I mean, it is really funny. I like, that's we talked a little bit, and I think maybe that's what's informing the conversation, but we talked a little bit about like how precious some people that come on the show are. And it's really funny because I think that comes from like a very outdated model of like, I'm going to make a book, you know, people are going to see the book, they're not ever going to talk to me. Every word that they're going to read is very well thought out and stuff like that. And people being very precious with stuff. And then like they do this and they don't realize that to some degree it's a little bit more fluid and performative, right? Where like, you know, like people want to co-edit the episode. I'm like, dude.
Like it's not that granular. Like,
yeah, it's like I don't even edit myself that much. You know, I leave me saying dumb shit all the time. You know why? Because I'm kind of dumb. And if that's part of my brand, no one will be disappointed when I fuck up.
It makes us relatable, I think. You know, it's like no one needs to be that perfect all the time.
Yeah,
and I think that if you look at, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of those artists too, like deep down, and I guess like maybe we're digging, you know, really into the psyche now. But it's like, if someone's that precious about it, I almost want to ask them, like, what do you see success as? Like, what are you actually trying to go for? Like, are you trying to have this, like, perfect thing for you? Or are you actually trying to put it in the world? And I think a lot of people, like, are fearful of putting themselves out there. And they're fearful of being like, yo, I'm actually doing this thing for real now. And in order for them to, like, get over that, sometimes they, like, rationalize, oh, like, it's just not ready yet. Like, it's just not the thing that I want to be known for. Like, it has to be exactly perfect. I'm like, nobody that has been successful, like, no actor, no musician, no nobody has ever like hit it out of the park every single time
Yeah,
from
yeah.
day one. Like, go fail a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
chill. Like, you got 100 followers. Like, we'll get there. You know?
Or no followers too. Sometimes that happens where someone's just so in control of their like literally someone that, and to me, I feel like a little bit of a dick when I think to myself, it's like, dude, I'm not literally gonna get any like new followership or anything like that from you. I'm having you on the show because I don't want that to be a limitation.
Sure.
You know, like I don't want you're required to have an Instagram. I'm required to get something out of our exchange.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you become a pain in the ass, I do think like, dude, I'm literally getting nothing out.
100%. I think let's like be reciprocal. I think if you were like in an art studio, right, you want to like have some camaraderie with people. You want to like be in this thing together, and you want to be able to like I think it's interesting because like a lot of artists when they're in the studio, they don't work that way. They're not as precious, right? They're not trying things out. Like there's new materials. Like they get excited about stuff. They try and things. It's just like when they take all of that excitement and curiosity and then they try and fit it into a hole that they want like someone else to be approving of. That's when you run into problems. And I think like with galleries, like they have to sell shit. Like it's like what is going to sell for them, and that doesn't always mean it's good art. So I think like some people that like think of themselves as like, oh, I have to be good enough, like throw that out the window because like it's just free market capitalism. Like and like half of that is going to like a landlord that's not even a part of this whole exchange. So
he doesn't care about art.
He doesn't even care about art. So like like the person you're trying to be perfect for is like not even like a real person. Like,
and then on a stacking your clout and growing as a person in a scene that's as a networking thing. The only thing that you're informing people, like what people don't get, like I don't get the vision. I when that happens to me and someone like really wants to be like that, like you said, granular control over what every single thing that they said, it's like my takeaway is not, I don't end up with the impression of what their vision is. I don't see the vision. All I see is how difficult they're making my life,
my vision.
You know, and so it is sort of self-defeating. Like, I mean, most of the people that are in the scene that I like are in the like that I see succeeding, that I see, you know, to whatever degree of success is. Not everybody's looking for commercial success. I wouldn't, I wouldn't hold like somebody that's going for artist run thing to the same standard as like a Mark Bradford.
Sure,
that's the name I love to drop.
Love Mark. Yeah.
I know he's great. His work is great. But like, I don't. I mean, I'm sure that when you get to that level of like being represented by Hauser and Wirth, maybe then you can start to be a little bit more controlling of like your image because people are literally there to work for you, right? Like, you are the money maker. You're like the LeBron that has many people dependent on him, right?
And like LeBron's been playing for like 20 years.
Exactly.
You know, you gotta put in some time. I think it's wherever people are at in their journey, and like there's no right or wrong answer to any of this. You know? So it's like whatever works for you works, and the fact that like anyone can make it work, I think is just like a miracle to begin with. You know, given how like convoluted the system is, I think. But like, if you're starting out, like it's good to take control and understand like where your control and that attention should be on. You know, it's like something with your work or something. I'm like pretty fastidious about like my stuff and I work kind of slow. But if I'm coming on to do something collaboratively, like allow there to be reciprocity, you know, like allow there to be organic shit that happens.
And
like,
trust that the person isn't trying to make you look bad. That's the thing that blows my mind.
Trust that you might learn something from this. Like you might actually make your shit better. Like, that's dope too, you know? And I think it's funny, like with all the content stuff, it's like, I think the conversation we've been having is like a little bit, you know, artists taking their own content and doing their own thing versus the gallery. But I'm like, if you look at the gallery, like they're literally doing the same shit. They're literally just making content about your work. So it's like, why wouldn't you just own that pipeline?
Definitely. Yeah, and I think the difference would probably be in that sense, you know, to play the sympathetic person to the people that we're talking about. Like, I guess in that sense, like maybe a lot of people just don't want to have to build that, you know, like, because that is. But at the same time, if you're not building that, it goes to that Deschamps thing. Then there's really no audience except for the people that see your work, right? So
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation. I definitely want to. You actually sent me. We've been talking for a half hour already. I definitely want to ask you about your topic. I mean, I knew it's cool if it's probably related to this. You
Yeah.
definitely, you had a few. I don't remember any of them. I actually
No worries. I think I mentioned just like slightly earlier on this leading in, but like the art not being a noun and art being action is like really the kind of thesis that I've been thinking about, which sounds like you've been thinking a lot about it as well, making content.
Yeah. So then, what can you get? So then, is it noun by process of elimination? It can still be a verb, an adverb, an adjective.
So it'd be in my mind, it'd be a verb. It's an action, right?
It's
so
okay.
It's like, yeah, if you're saying that it's not this like static thing, then like really think about it as something that needs to be engaged with, right? So like if it only exists when someone's looking at it, or when someone's making it, or when someone's thinking about it, then like it's an action.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if it's just this static object, like, you know, I guess it depends on how you look at art. I think some people will look at it like there's two camps really. There's like camp one that, you know, if something's illusionistic, it's art, right? That's what painting kind of comes from, right? Just like light, manipulation of light. So it's like that's one camp, and that's the sort of traditional party. And then I think there's like the other that's like, no, it's actually about discourse. Like it's actually about communication. It's about visual signifiers and this whole lexicon of like human consciousness beyond language, right? And so I think like that's more the camp that I fall under, and like that's like the more contemporary camp. And I think when you look at at things like that, then it really art only exists as long as you're making it, you know, and as long as like you're working on it, or as long as someone else is like thinking about how they can react to it or do something with it. And so I've been thinking a lot in terms of like, where does that go, right? Like people talk about like there's no movements anymore. There's like where's art history going, or like now it's everyone's just on Instagram. There's like art history's dead, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like thinking about the next steps in like, you know, what I want to make and like how that relates to the culture and all that stuff is like very much where I'm invested. But I know that art is not a noun, so thinking about it along the lines of like a verb, thinking about it in terms of like new formats, right? Breaking formats and making that a part of my work. Like I do smaller scale paintings, like some of the ones behind me, like all based on postcards, which is more of an archival process. You know, I think it's like mini reliquaries, but like I also like make art that's dematerialized, like just recording the time I take making art or thinking about art, and like just logging that time on literal time cards. And I'm like, that's art.
Yeah.
And it's like it just becomes performative, and so I like playing with that mold.
Would you say that this is like more? So then the two camps would be the modernist versus postmodernist.
I think so. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and distill it down.
Because especially since we're using Duchamp as the breakdown, it's interesting. I mean, I do think that the traditionalist side of things is always interesting because it can be beneficial, right? Like it can. I think that is what leads to things that are cohesive movements, right? But I think that like what's interesting too is that I still see things happening. Like I'm literally see other people doing things that I'm interested in.
Sure.
You know, and I think that's just zeitgeisty. I think that's also where movement comes from, not just from following a tradition, but like for example with the you know, like the classic thing about Picasso talking about things that were going on in science at the same time, which
Da Vinci, you know, and like art kind of derived itself from medicine and science, like initially, right?
Well, they're all observation based, right? Like there needs to be some level of like being aware. You can't like be shut off from the world. I mean, maybe you could, and then it would just be very internal art. Right. But like experience is important.
Even like further back than that, I'm saying like pigment, right, comes from chemistry.
Right?
Yeah. So it's like the way that we've like put these things together in our mind, like come from other things. Like so I think like yes, it's very zeitgeisty, but I think it's also it kind of moves as a pendulum, because if you go back to your example of like, oh, when I think of painting like on like the rock wall or something like that, like, and it's not on a rectangular format, like maybe that's not actually traditionalist. Like maybe that's more in the camp that we're in today with Duchamp, right? Like they were literally doing that to archive something, right? So there was like a clear utility behind that action. Like I want to tell people that I was here. This is what we hunted for food. Like this is the kind of house that we built. This is the kind of culture we had. This is our language, right? So they like wrote that shit down.
Yeah.
And like it was a tool. And then like art to some extent, like even in like, you know, the more European kind of romantic era, like that was pre-photography, right? Yeah. So it was like it was documentation. It was always altered, right? Like based on the patrons' like wishes and stuff. So it was like kind of a false.
Give me a big dick.
Yeah, it was like a false narrative around it, right? It was an illusion back to that. But it's like ultimately like they were trying to do something with it, and I think now like artists are like, oh, I'm making these paintings, but like, can I have it be like my revenue stream, or like, can it have some other utility? Like, am I documenting something in terms of a process of how to build a channel, or how other people can think about art or whatever? Like, there's always like this utility layer that I think actually goes with art, and I just think like nobody really talks about it. And a lot of people actually say like good art should have no utility, right? Like that's a huge thing that we learn in school too. Like
that's a cringe thing that you learn.
Yeah, it's a cringe thing, but they're like it must be all about form or whatever. And I'm like, but dude, we function in this world. Like we like function. Like, well, I don't have a lot of room in my life for shit that doesn't do anything. You know, it's like
I did one of the things that I first curated was a show where I was like a ceramics show that was literally like my point about it was like, this is like the thing that we discover about ourselves, like this utilitarian object that we kind of dismiss as like maybe a lesser art form is like super fucking important in terms of like culture and whatnot. So it's an interesting thing to sort of, I think that I mean it is maybe like a little colonialist in that sense of like we decide what's high art, you know, in terms of like, oh, ceramics, because it serves a function, it's like quaint. It's less than,
right? Or
yeah,
like,
but then you have porcelain and shit like that, and like, yes, we make toilets out of porcelain now, but like
Fabergé eggs and stuff, you know, it's like all that shit became like super precious.
Yeah,
it's just perspective. Like it's really weird that people have that, but I definitely think it comes from like a kind of colonial past for sure. Like some of that tradition is just like, I mean,
we get to decide what is valuable.
Yeah, every museum was like basically created as an extension of that hierarchy, right? So it's like it'd be foolish to think that that didn't influence culture over the last 100 years. Like it has, and we're all living through it and figuring out like where we land on the other end of it. But like you gotta admit that it's real.
Is there any Christian art influence on your stuff? Because I do see like relief sculpture and stuff like that in there, just out of curiosity. I like, if I hadn't known that you were based on your your last name, I would have been like, oh, this guy's a total Latino Catholic guilt.
So it's interesting. So like definitely like borrow from like the tradition of reliquaries and like the Catholic Church. And,
okay.
Like I always thought it was like so insane that there was like these really ornate high art like objects, but like it was someone's toe in glass or something. Like it was just like so macabre, and I just love that. So
which is why it's so funny when people are like, oh, true crime, why is everybody into true crime? It's like, true crime is what we are, bro. True crime is literally the things we do in society.
Absolutely. So I was like really inspired by that, and actually like, you know, caveat to my background, like my last name is Hashemzadeh, but my mom is actually a Swiss Christian. So like I get it kind of from that end. And her partner grew up Catholic. So there's a little bit of that lineage, like just kind of, you know, having grown up and been exposed to that culture. But I think about just like the things that we leave behind, right? Like you're making these YouTube videos, and like what happens when someone finds that in 100 years and stuff. And it's like some of these postcards I look at, like for me, my family immigrated to LA, and I think of like always us learning about this place. Like we came in as these like othered people, and so I think just like looking at these like really colloquial, quaint postcards of like family vacations that happened in Los Angeles is like just this cool resonating point where I'm like, yeah, I've been to these places and like in different times, but I look at these postcards and read a letter from like 100 years ago, and I'll be like, wow, this phrase like it just feels like it could be yesterday that they said this or something.
Yeah.
And so like those will be the phrases I
That's the bomb.
That's the bomb, yeah, or whatever. Like just like things that like
I just was trying to think of the most like not timeless phrase.
Yeah, that's the bomb. Yeah,
the
like
bomb
really,
diggity.
Yeah, super dated. But there's certain ones that like, I mean, just like
so groovy, man.
Like there was some, yeah, so groovy. It's like puts it really in context. But like there's ones like even during quarantine stuff, like the sentiment that someone's like, oh, wish you were here or something. Like, what does that mean in quarantine? Like,
yeah.
100 years after someone wrote that, it's like I don't think that they would have ever imagined that context.
But wait, so do these have like, are you buying cards that have been filled out, so they are filled out on the back?
Yeah, so these are all like,
okay, cool.
on the back. Yeah,
those things have such crazy histories when you get into that stuff. Yeah,
so like for me, like again, think about my materials as like a conceptual art origin, like
like I'm definitely in that school, like unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it makes life hard.
The least, that's why I got into content creation, because it's like, oh, I can make money off of this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, hey, I've made more off Facebook than I have from galleries this year, and I'm like, am I not making art, or like, am I just making art better now?
Direct to consumer art.
Direct to consumer.
Hey
art.
man, we're just the Amazon of art. Is what
We're just delivering it to you, but don't buy from Amazon. Buy from artists. Like,
Yeah,
direct. Go direct.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be funny because I know what Amazon. One of the things that
cut for an Amazon ad right now.
Yeah, I mean, I use Amazon.
Yeah,
100%. Literally half of the shit came through Amazon. At least for sure, the power supplies for the cameras. The cameras came from Best Buy. So we're good now.
So we're good. This was an ethically made video.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is so interesting, and like just the art economy is fascinating to me, especially the more I get into this and the more I feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable getting into people's like, because like when I first started, I wasn't gonna be like, hey, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting, the idea of art as a like. There are other art content creators. I mean, there's tons of them, right? But you don't necessarily know one just because you're in the art world, right? So you're the first other person. I've been doing the show for like how long? 150.
Drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
How long have we been making this?
Yeah. What number is this? just it's gonna be on the title, but just comment it down below. No, but like, yeah, at least at the time of this recording, we're at least at 157.
Okay.
So.
Congrats.
I used to say that was that many artists minus doubles, but there was an era that I did one guest for 2 episodes. So take that in stride. It's probably more like 100 artists-ish that I've talked to. It's still a lot.
Slacking.
Yeah,
bro,
I know.
slacking.
Dude, that's the
just
only
100 artists.
But it's crazy. Like, you would think that there would be a lot more people. I mean, and I guess I would consider Deborah Bros a bit of a content creator because she's on Instagram.
Yeah, she posts a lot.
Yeah, she's definitely there. But in terms of like doing long form stuff, I think that there's not a lot of people that.
I think that's tough for artists because it's like
it's a third job.
It's a third job, and also like contextually, long format is very different than like presenting your work. Like, because as a painting or as a painter or a sculptor, right? Like, you're trying to get an object to one stage and then like just show it.
Yeah.
And stuff. So like thinking about like long format around like process documentation and stuff like that, it's just like very unnatural, I think, in terms of how sometimes people work. And so like there's probably stuff to figure out.
It's disruptive, dude. Yeah, if you're like, I've tried to document work. It is really disruptive when you're doing
the work
it.
suffers, I feel.
Like,
which is why I don't do a lot of it.
It just takes longer too. Yeah, it takes longer too. What I want to start doing now is that now that I have the 2 cameras, I'm just gonna start live streaming, like, and then that way I don't have to worry about shit. And then
saves you a fuckload on editing.
Yeah, exactly. Like VOD, just direct upload. But I think that there's I think even that though, it's gonna be like more of a live streamy thing where I'm like responding to chats and stuff. But
coming to Twitch soon.
Yeah, coming to YouTube. Fuck YouTube. Twitch. Twitch is imploding. Twitch is like having some serious problems. You think Instagram is struggling?
Yeah, I mean, I think they all are struggling right now. Like, digital marketing right now is tough.
But, that's what you work in, right?
That's what I work in. Yeah. So it's like
you would know more than me.
We definitely see like a pullback, but I think also just right now, like around like user privacy and like thinking about like the TikToks of the world coming in and like having everything be like more engagement driven than like your personal network driven, like that's a big paradigm shift. And I think that shuffles how people get ranked on stuff and like how they make content, right? So I think there's a lot of people just kind of navigating that, including like the companies themselves, right? Like Facebook trying to figure this out or Amazon trying to figure it out. So we'll see, but like cookies are going away in like 2024.
Really?
Yeah, for like,
fucking
websites.
Thank God.
Yeah, so but they're trying to like, what is the solution to that? What comes?
It's probably worse.
Probably worse. NFTs, bro.
An anal implant.
Anal implant. Yeah, that was like 3rd on the list, I think. Like, so we're getting there.
Fucking Klaus Schwab all up in your butt. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I definitely am still figuring all of this stuff out. Like I know a little bit about it, but as you commit to it, you start to get overwhelmed by how much you don't know.
Sure.
But I mean, there's so much information out there too on how to do it. So it's
endless.
not, it's endless. And like, if you don't like the way that one guy tells you, Wait a second. You have Pretty Woman on VHS.
I do have Pretty Woman on VHS. That was a good. I saw that side eye look right when you said that. I was like, "What is he looking at?"
It's next to two Steve Martin movies, Bowfinger and The Jerk.
Yes.
I just tell me about why you have the Pretty Woman. Is it one of your favorites?
So
where do we stand on it?
100% fair question. This is going to be a very specific answer. I don't know if anyways, yeah. So anyway, my friend that I've kind of grown up with, his mom was a screenwriter. And,
I thought you were gonna say prostitute.
No.
Sorry, friend. I didn't mean it as a diss.
Yeah, so it's she was just a writer, and basically she was the script doctor that got Pretty Woman made, and I had seen it in like a thrift store for like $1, and I was like, I gotta.
But I don't see it. Do you have a VHS player?
I don't. I literally just bought it because I saw it, and I was like, oh, my friend's work or whatever, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this out of a thrift store. So. I think it has like staying power, but I
think one of my favorite Dave Chappelle show sketches was the one where she's like talking to him in bed, and he goes, "You got to get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. The skit. There's just like so many skits on it, which I think is like crazy. I just saw an art show, and it was like in an art show as a painting, right? Like someone painted the Pretty Woman cover.
It's iconic.
It's so iconic.
It's like it's such a crazy thing. But my favorite take on it is the Romeo and Michelle. Did you ever watch that movie?
No.
They watch it, but they hate it.
That's funny.
They're like, they make fun of her for being sad that they won't let her shop on Rodeo Drive. They're like, oh, boo-hoo. Romeo and Michelle is a solid watch. My sister got me into that.
Okay, I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah.
But I literally just got it to like send a funny text to my friends.
That's how cheap VCRs are. God damn, dude. I used to fucking have such a huge collection. I remember the day I got rid of that shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, DVDs and shit and like all that stuff. I collected a lot of Blu-rays and stuff.
Yeah.
Total waste. Totally.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Found it on YouTube. But...
Yeah. It's crazy. But like now we don't own shit. Just like Schwab. Klaus Schwab just gets so many shout outs on this show.
Schwab. Yeah, where are the ads? Like, here's a 6-second bump.
The IMF. I'm going to be Trudeau and what's the Jacinda from like all the people that are from the World Economic Forum, the Prime Minister from the UK.
Yeah.
It's all crazy. Anyway, it's a pretty interesting like I think that's also kind of related to the digitizing conversation. And in fact, actually, I did want to ask you, I mean, we can go back to the art as a noun. I don't want to get too far away from that.
We can go as nebulous as you want.
But I did want to ask you a little bit about NFTs because you seem to be I'm a fucking old man that doesn't get it. And you seem to have similar political leanings. So I don't think that you're like unethical.
For sure.
I'm not going to buy anything that you try to sell me on.
Yeah, there's no shilling here. Don't worry, nothing for you to buy.
But you were talking about some projects that you have that are interesting that I maybe want to. Do you want to talk about it?
I'm totally down.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm always game for NFTs and blockchain and stuff.
Okay,
so.
cool. Well, you were first. Let's start off with the thing that you were telling me about that you kind of explained to me, but I'm still kind of my cobwebs in the brain weren't quite getting it. So what was the thing that you put into people's wallets that kind of it was an anonymization tool?
Well, so NFTs and blockchain will always give users and end user more anonymity in terms of like the information that we typically dox ourselves with today, right? So like I can have a wallet and represent myself to a company as a purchaser, right? Without having to give my name because all it has is like a identification number on the wallet, right? So I can operate and transact through that code and keep all my personal information just private, basically. Is
that where the security problems lie then? Because you can't. There's no way to verify the identity of the wallet. How are people getting all their shit stolen?
Oh, so good question. That's what we want to know. Like, why are all y'all getting shit?
No. And this is not. This is like the successful people that have legit crypto. That's what I'm asking about.
100%. Yeah. So the reason that theft is happening is because it's just like scam artists and bad actors coming into the space and saying like, "Hey, here's this new technology that they didn't even really create the hype around. They just saw that there was a bit of a gold rush, right?" And then they try and capitalize on that by sending people promotions or going into community lists and saying, "Hey, check out this link or something." And when they click that link, it's like a phishing attack, and then it'll just grab wallet funds because they're literally saying it's okay. Like the user is saying it's okay. The user just doesn't recognize what this is because they're not used to blockchain, right? It's a new technology, so there's going to be more error in the beginning. But like if you just don't do that, they don't have any way to just come into your wallet.
So it's phishing attacks and stuff like that,
It's
and
stuff
then
like that.
social engineering maybe a little bit too.
Definitely social engineering.
Which
I think
for
like the
people that don't know, what is social engineering?
it's like basically playing to like a vulnerability to that person's individual situation. So like
It's like
building context to something.
Face-to-face con versus
Yeah, exactly. And there's definitely a lot of that. I think like some of the scarier stuff that they're trying to work around in terms of like infrastructural security is like you have these big like infrastructural tools for blockchain, which there are very few right now. So they're leaning on like Discord and like stuff like that. But if someone hacks your Discord and then they're coming in because they got your email, right? And now they're coming in as you and then talking to your community of 30,000 people and they're like, hey, like new announcement, click this link. And then all of a sudden like 10 people within that Discord click that. And like, I mean, Bored Apes had like a couple $100,000 stolen this way, basically. And
so is Bored Apes, has that not crashed yet?
It's gone down, but it's like still, I mean, they still have a pretty robust community and like they're still doing events and stuff. I think the whole market's like kind of contracted a little bit, which is probably for the best, honestly. But yeah, I mean, there's projects that, I mean, they raised like just a shit ton of money, so they're floating for a little while. I don't know what they're doing with it necessarily, but like they're not broke yet.
Yeah. All right, so then more in the NFT space, like what are the advantages? So things that I've heard that seem interesting about the technology. I've heard Gary Vee talk about how if you own an NFT, it can also become a ticket for future stuff. So
you're
like,
a Gary Vee follower?
Not really, but I mean, he's fucking everywhere.
Yeah, he's a smart dude.
He's hard to avoid, you know? Yeah. He knows his shit. Like if there's anybody that talks about and like all this stuff that doesn't make me feel like he's scamming me is him.
It's probably Gary.
Yeah. Like
he did like the VCon with, so all of his NFTs, like he sold his NFTs first and then told everyone that made that purchase, like, hey, that's going to actually get you three access passes to VCon or whatever. So they were able to use that as a ticket. And I think that's like a perfect example of like early utility.
So you can always add functionality to an NFT because so it's not just you own the first JPEG. There can be other things attached to it because that's a lot of the things that people were shitting on NFTs.
Yeah, they're like, it's just a JPEG. I'm like, no, it's literally an NFT. It's like just a new file format. Like, like if people were saying like, oh, you bought this JPEG for $100,000, which people have been doing from galleries, by the way, for years, like a decade or so.
Really?
Yeah, like digital artists, like they're literally just buying a thumb drive with like a MP4 or a JPEG on it. I'm like, but because they put their PDF, another file format, saying like this gallery approves it, it's worth $150,000. Like,
oh, okay, so it's just like a validation certificate.
It's just a validation thing. It's just putting it on a ledger where like you, me, and anyone else can see that this transaction happened and that it came from an actual source. So if I had a wallet that I did put like a brand ID on, right, like a Gucci making products or something, and saying, hey, these all came from us, or a Nike or an artist or whoever. You have a way that the entire public can verify where this object came from and how it was transacted for how much money. Whereas like now it's all cloaks and daggers, right? Like around like items and private sales and stuff like that. So I think it builds a lot more like honesty and transparency into the marketplace, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is dope.
So, but do you own any NFTs?
I do. I own probably like a handful, like 30 or so, but
oh wow, that's a lot more than I expected. So then how do you see them as an investment? Do you see them going up in value? Why did you make the purchases? I literally don't know.
No, good question. And I think like as a content creator and stuff, like these were things that I was asking myself too, like about a year ago, right? Like what is this for? Or like why would someone buy an NFT? And I wasn't actually that bullish on them to begin with because I was kind of in that JPEG camp. I was like, people are selling JPEG for $100,000. That sounds crazy. And then I just did the homework and I was like, wait a minute, actually, like if I'm seeing the same logic that we're seeing that takes us from a painting to YouTube, it's not that far of a jump to be like, oh, like could I build content around YouTube, have more transparency into the data channels that Google right now owns, and then have that actually just be under my umbrella with my studio and my content and all that stuff, and just think of it as like another channel.
I get you. The thing that I'm still kind of confused about though is the blockchain doesn't keep track of personal information. It keeps track of transactions, and it keeps track of your anonymous wallet, right? It
does, yeah. And then if any of those like NFTs, right? So this gets kind of like to why I bought some, right? Like there's different use cases for different ones. Like some of them are domains, really. Like it's just like a digital domain with like a .ether thing. So like some of them are like IP for my brand, right? That I want to like capture early on when no one else is competing for it. You know, things like that I think might give me SEO or, you know, stuff like that.
What's SEO?
SEO is just like
SEO,
search engine optimization. Yeah. So it's like if I can buy another URL that gives me X% better ranking for my keywords on my Web 2 website, whatever that I've already built as an artist, like that seems good. Like, why wouldn't I do that for like $10, $20? Like, that seems like a fair investment.
So in this case, the NFTs are just URLs essentially.
Some of the ones that I collected, like that's one example of like why I would invest in one. Other ones, like the first one that I got into was this project, they're still around, called Heart Project, and it was just like a decentralized artist collective. So same reason I joined Bendix Building, very similar. Like there was an artist friend of mine also working on Maple Street that was like drawing these heart cartoons, and they wanted to do those as like membership tokens to like different events and music producing opportunities. And like every 8 weeks we would submit ideas, and then they would basically fund that with a grant, like to the community and stuff. So it was like this community building tool that was really cool. And we did like a bunch of collabs. We released some merch with like Fred Siegel, and so it was a whole experiential thing. And because I knew that project was operating in LA, I was like, oh, I can actually meet these people in person and like go to their studio and like exchange work with them and use it as like a networking tool like that any other artist would be looking for at a gallery opening, right? And that's kind of how I fell into it.
But so far none of these are like, I am expecting to sell these for like $20,000 in 10 years. So that's not
my thinking, at least. I think there's a lot of that in the market.
No, I mean, that's the headlines of NFTs, right? Like that's what gets people's attention. So then you're more interested in it as a utilitarian tool.
Yeah. What is the function?
What is the function?
Like, what is the action behind this art? Right? Like, what is that? It comes all back down to that, I think. It's like, how are these artists leveraging the visual representation of something, and then thinking about like as just an art medium and creative exercise, right? Like, okay, I have a JPEG of my painting. Now, if I used computer code and all the things that I've kind of built around like community online, like what else could that painting do? Right? And like, it could be endless. Like, I think that there's all kinds of use cases. Like, I was doing these like pizza box paintings that are kind of like floating around. And so the idea for some of them was like, could you make a painting on a material like a pizza box, right? And then think about like the starving artist persona. And then basically when you sell that painting online, instead of like splitting it with a gallery, like you split half of it with a community that maybe you have online, give them a token, and then let them go buy pizza from the place that box was from.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, and you know that they're able to do that because they have maybe like a photo of it that's like a membership that says, hey, they like participated, or we had scaled these up for like a pizza party, right? So like you can invite people, everyone that was at the initial party, to eat the pizza, to produce the material, then becomes like a recipient of the reward at the end of it. And it's like, that's a far more engaging, like creative, performative experience, I think, not just for me, but for like my audience, than like, hey, here's this box, and like, can you buy a G Clay of it from a gallery? Like,
what's a G Clay?
Just like a print, like a photo print.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only seen it written because I've only recently started. I didn't know that's how you said it. I thought it was G Clay.
Yeah, as the French would put it. Yeah.
I made it more French than it actually was. See, those are the dumb things I leave in.
It's good. It's how we learn.
It's interesting, but also just like borderline makes my eyes glaze over a little bit. Now, the community element of it is, I know, an important part, because like it's almost like without the community there is no backing for the coin, right? Sure. So there's the Bored Ape that's the one that succeeded. What did you know about the other one that really like tanked recently, that was supposed to be a video game with something about
there's been a lot of crashes right now in terms
but there was like, it was a specific one that was also about apes. So like, I think they were just, but anyway, the long story short of it is that they got rug pulled, but then they tried, as a community, they all tried to salvage it by making a second coin that people invested in. So it's interesting, because even when those, like, the reason I bring up that story is because it's a community. Even after they got fucked, they were still a community, and they still tried. Powerful. Yeah, that's really an interesting thing. Yeah, which again, man, this is still kind of nebulous for me. I know you're trying to explain it,
but bring that back to like our Duchamp conversation, right?
Yeah,
and it's like even if you don't get it, there's enough like happening there where you're like, oh, community around this IP is like dying.
Yeah.
But like somehow the community's keeping it around, and like they're wanting to champion it and have some involvement with that creative process.
But they also all got fucked.
But it's like early days, right? Like a lot of people got fucked by like the banking system in 1930s. Like We had to figure out how the dollar worked.
Only then?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then every year subsequently since. Yes, exactly. So it's like we still are working
2022.
on it.
No, it's funny. Well, okay, that actually ties into one of the things that I've heard. That's why I was asking you about the security, right? Because then people were saying like they want like the people were making fun of crypto. I forget who it was, but they were just everyone. Well, I mean, I think that Rogan makes a good point when he talks about the people that try to, like, you're not trying to sell me anything.
Yeah, literally nothing to sell you.
So it doesn't feel weird. But like if people are trying to sell you on it and want you to participate, it definitely sounds scammy and
come buy this photo of an ape for $10,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I get where he's coming from with that. But it's interesting. So basically it seems like an organization tool, like you're saying, right? Like, and the value isn't necessarily so much in the NFT itself, but in what it, as a technology, it can do for a community that believes in it, right?
Yeah,
like,
and you as a consumer, like, how valuable is it for you buying into that community and having like an actual stake and representation in it?
But then as people leave the community, does that affect its value? So like if people just start flaking on it, because then isn't that like there's a new rug pull with what's his name, Logan Paul.
Oh, okay.
It's a recent CoffeeZilla video. If you guys don't know anything about CoffeeZilla, like is one of the best persons on the FTX. Like he got Sam Bankman whatever SMB or SBM or
Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF.
So many fucking acronyms. WEP, IMF. They're fucking nerds for that shit. Anyway, so CoffeeZilla is the one that got him to like admit that he was literally not separating the funds, because every time that people would ask him a question about like, is it like he would try to say that he would talk about the TOSs, and then he basically just got him to admit that despite there being different TOS for the high risk side of FTX, FXT. Dyslexia doesn't help in this situation. Anyway, he
admitted to using like private funds. Basically,
he basically admitted that both sides of it were like there was no dividing line. It was all fungible. Yeah. All those funds, the funds from the
because he was moving dollars basically from FTX into an investment hedge fund.
Yeah,
and then he was replacing the dollars that he sent there with FTX tokens,
which are valueless.
Yeah, and the only reason they had value was because like they were pegged to these investments. But as soon as those investments like started looking sour, right, and they were high risk, which they were, like all of a sudden that entire liquidity pool went to zero, and that's why you lost like $24 billion in a matter of 48 hours, right? So it's like
but anyway, so that's CoffeeZilla, like, which it's actually really interesting stuff. He's basically a fraud YouTuber or a fraud busting YouTuber.
Oh god, he's not a fraud. He's busting fraud.
Yeah, he busts his fraud.
We'll drop the link.
He has the $10 million studio, and he wears suspenders, so it always looks like. Anyway, it really really interesting stuff. But one of the things that he was saying about the Logan Paul stuff is that basically he's abandoning the community. So one of the things that's also kind of weird, like, is like these people will start promoting something, but and then if they don't promote it, it fizzles out, which seems like super high stakes if you're investing that much money, right? Because you have to trust that Logan Paul is not going to get tired of it and lazy. I think Lana Rhoades did it. I mean, they end up being rug pulls, but they just say it's because it's too complicated and whatnot. Or
like the market's down or whatever. Yeah, and I totally get it. And at the end of the day, it's like the people that you're investing in are also artists trying to figure it out. So like, imagine yourself running a project like this, and then like think about expectation from there.
No, that's what I'm saying. So then the fact that it's a community thing basically means that, like, isn't there like a cult element here?
I mean, but I think it's cool because you can start to be like, hey, we're all Logan Paul fans or Harry Potter fans or whatever, and you can start to like pull resources in a way that
you did not pick a less problematic property.
A less problematic property, yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
but it's tough because I think like even for those brands, like, you know, let's say that there was another community, right? Like, look at this 20 years ago when there was just IP, there was a person that made it, and then you like whatever cultural resonance it has, right?
Like IP being intellectual property. So like, let's say Wolverine.
Yeah, anything, any movie, music,
Okay.
anything like that. And it's like, you might get some royalties, but like you kind of have to rely on a record label that hopefully is still in business to like provide that to you. And then like, if you are doing stuff, great, like, but you're usually kind of just beholden to the next piece of content. And it's like here you can have content like after the person dies or whatever, like you can have a community around it that helps like further that creative journey for whatever that thing is. And I think there's also a lot of people that are starting projects and not really understanding how to deliver on those projects.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Logan Paul, I'm sure is not like the best technologist.
No,
It's
yeah.
like he's not probably the front runner in how to create DAOs and decentralized organizations and all this kind of stuff. Like he's just a YouTube celebrity that's like, hey, this is something I heard about on YouTube, and I
No,
want
that's
to try and capitalize. And it's like his fans are there for him.
watch yourselves when I start pushing a coin, okay?
Yeah.
Just beware.
What's your thesis coin? What's your coin?
Where's your coin?
Yeah, where's your coin? Let me get that coin.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, it's okay. So then now I'm starting to get a sense of how it can be so fraught with like, so basically the NFT is it's like a community project. That's why it's always referred to as a project, right?
Yeah.
It can't exist without the audience in the sense like, and it's not even just financially. Like if people, let's say it's not an art project that's going to necessarily make a lot of money. If like people just fizzle out and stop giving a shit about it, it drops value.
I mean, value is just what you are willing to pay for it, right? So, like for me with NFTs right now, for anyone in my community, and like there's some people that are following that have gotten them. Like I'll do things like I'll post a piece of content on Instagram and maybe ask like a Q&A question about it or post some work, and people that engage with that, I'll be like, hey, here's an NFT copy of that work or an edition of that work. And so like for me, I'm giving away probably more NFTs that I make for free than I'm actually charging, right? And it's like a community building tool, but I also am setting expectation around stakes, right? Like I don't want someone putting in like $10,000 and being like, hey, why didn't you conquer the art world or whatever? And I'm like, like we're building together, and it's like my ask from the community should be relative to like where I'm at with the community. And I think like what happened in this last cycle was like people thought they were on the moon and they wanted the community to come with them, but they're like, fuck, rocket ships are hard to build and like I don't really know how to do it. And so there's problems there. But I think you can do things that are like much less problematic. I mean, ticketing is like a great example. I think galleries could do that, right? Like send out flyers to everyone that's involved with like an NFT art community and then just basically blanket to them and say, hey, there's this show coming. Come here, scan this code, and then get like an unlockable or special edition or something from the artist when you come to the actual show. And like it drives traffic, drives engagement, drives maybe posts or sharing. And so you build the audience and you build that viewership, right?
What other usages other than URLs? So okay, so then I could say that possibly like an NFT. So then the NFT's value is based essentially. Are people just trying to buy into a community?
They are, and like usually if that community has a lot of demand, like with anything in the market, with a stock, it's the same thing, right? Like if I'm selling something, that I bought for $100, but the community demand is so high, then people resell it. I mean, with Nikes and stuff, it's the same thing. Like I'll get a pair of shoes from a reseller because I couldn't get the initial drop. If you can get the initial drop, you probably are investing a very small amount.
By the way, I did notice your sneakers. You brought them up a couple times, and I am going to peep your collection at some point before I head out.
Are you a sneakerhead?
I mean, not to the degree. I don't wear basketball sneakers. That's a whole different thing, but I do like sneakers.
I love it.
I'm more of a running shoe guy and a skate shoe guy, but
we'll definitely peep the collection. We'll do another segment. Like, what's in your closet?
Yeah, the what's branding is unstoppable.
What's universe is happening. The metaverse of what's.
Yeah, what's my diet is going to be our food channel.
It's perfect. It's already happening. There'll be tokens for all of it.
What's our Pornhub is going to be an interesting addition to the. No, it's anyway. I find it interesting. I still don't think that until I see like a project that makes sense to me entirely, I'm going to really fully get it. I mean, I'm starting to understand.
So you said you're a gamer, right?
Yeah.
So let me give you one on game.
I don't identify as a gamer though. I just play games.
You just play games. Okay, cool. But
like so politicized.
Oh man, everything. You can't be anything these days. But okay, like let's say as someone who just plays games, may or may not be a gamer, you probably have had it before. Like I think you mentioned that you've played Overwatch before.
Yeah.
You hop to a different game. Like you have to kind of start over, right?
Yeah.
Like it'd be cool if, like, I played World of Warcraft back in the day. Like if I could have armor that I unlocked in World of Warcraft go to me as an NFT that I have ownership of, right? It's not like on Blizzard's server or anything, but it's stuff that I've unlocked, trophies, awards, stuff like that you have. And those things may have an actual utility to them, maybe like an unlockable mount or like a chat room or something like that you're able to get access to.
You are a gamer.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely came from this world, right? So, but like thinking about like how people monetize digital rewards, right? And it's like a big business. So
well, I mean, did you ever sell gold for like mine for gold for people and stuff like that?
I didn't do, but I knew that people were doing
It's like
that,
a
right?
huge economy there. Yeah.
So if you had that as an NFT, you could literally do that for anyone, right? Like you earn the asset and then sell it on the free market, right? So it creates transparency there, and then you can build a royalty for the game developer, right? So
so you're saying when I'm done because I can't get into plat on Overwatch because I think
you could sell your characters or the skins or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And like because you own them, you put in the work, right?
I mean, people still did it with World of Warcraft, but it was on their server. So in this case, you would actually be able to do it without their being dependent on them. What's the difference?
Like you'd still play the game, but like instead of that like character skin existing only in your Overwatch 2 profile, it'll be a digital NFT file that you would then redeem because you earned it, right? Like you won that as your labor, right?
But then what would
and then you could sell it on OpenSea or something or an eBay or something, and then
but people would still only be able to use that skin in the game.
So they'd be able to use it in that game, but as you start building on that format, you could imagine then more developers have it interoperable. So it's like you can then take that skin and then use it in World of Warcraft or like any game that you start on, and then all of a sudden the things that you've spent all this time working and unlocking, you can carry with you through these like gaming universes and metaverses and
how many women do you think are still listening?
Probably like -4, but yeah. But I think it's like, I mean, these are billion-dollar industries,
they
right?
have the driest vaginas.
Yeah, I know it's boring as fuck, but like,
no, it's not boring. I'm into it. I'm just like, it is.
I'm just saying use cases there, like that's like a multi-billion-dollar use case. Like,
I think that what I'm getting from what I'm communicating to you about my not being able to understand, I think that like I just don't have enough of a contextual understanding of the blockchain and NFT to see everything that's potential is inherent in its potential without being given an example. You know, without being like, oh, well, this guy did this, this guy did that. And you've given me plenty of examples. And I think that I won't really understand it fully until there's like a project that I'm like, oh, you know, like little things like the glimpses of like Gary V explaining that ticketing thing, all those little things. I mean, I get it, but the community aspect of it is overwhelming. The idea of a community that you buy into seems strange to me, but I get it. I mean, it's not like I'm not comparing it to a frat, right? It's definitely different, although maybe a frat is probably more beneficial if you're going to like Yale and shit.
I mean, but there might be a token for that.
No, exactly. There might be an NFT. So it seems like, okay, how do you visualize it in 10 years? Like maybe
10 years?
Yeah, like what do you see? But you do the imagining for me so that I can, because I don't understand the technology enough to know all of the potential.
So like as an artist, right? Like that's where I'm focused on use cases. Like I think for me, for any artist, right, the resale opportunity, like if you think about provenance, right now if you buy an artwork, like your proof of authenticity is either a printout piece of paper or a PDF that you got from a gallery. Will that gallery be around in 200 years? I don't know. Chances are no.
No.
And it's like, so then what happens then? Like, who's authenticating that? Who's deliberating the dispute there? It makes sense to have things on a public ledger that you can say, hey, this transaction happened. This transaction ID is associated with this NFT that is essentially a virtual proof of provenance, same way as a PDF is, but it's actually tied to a ledger. And we have it tied to the physical artwork, right? So there's ways people can do that with NFC, tagging and stuff. So like this object and this NFT are paired. Now that's a ledger, like an item on this ledger in the blockchain. So if I trade this painting 200 years from now, or someone finds my collection in my chateau somewhere or whatever and decide to put it at Sotheby's, like there's no dispute as to like where this came from. Like, oh, it came here this date, this time. You know, eventually we'll do geotagging too, I think.
And that's separate from community. That's always going to be like, you don't need
that's provenance, but it's like as an artist, your buyers are your community, right? Your patrons, right? So you're thinking about like people that are following me. I'm giving them a way to verify their asset, right? Like I think I'm a dope artist and I think my shit's going to go up. So it's like someone that's buying today, they might want to flip 10 years from now and like make a bag or something. And it's like, it's a good tool for them to have so that they never have to like be in a position where they have to pay or dispute its authenticity because it's like, it's verified by everyone.
And then the one thing that I did, that one of the first early things that made me think the NFTs were interesting was the fact that you can also get a cut on the resale.
That's like the other thing on that too, right? Once you have that provenance and you built that trust, right? You provided that value to your consumer. Now you're saying, okay, well, the gallery or someone else that might have been doing that, the authenticator might have gotten a cut. Now that you don't have to do that and I'm saving you that cost, like maybe just throw me 5% of your resale.
Yeah.
You know, and like that goes direct to me, which makes more art, which ultimately helps you, the buyer, because it's like investing directly in the thing that you invested in, which I'm in agreement with, right? So it's like put all the money there instead of giving, and again, nothing against galleries, but like instead of giving half to a gallery, which then is split with a landlord or whatever, it's like all of it goes back to the studio and then like goes into making more dope art, which you initially liked, which is why you bought it. So
interesting. That I definitely can get a handle on. Those are the parts, the elements that I understand of it that I think make me think it's not just like a scammy thing.
Sure.
But I do see how it opens itself up to like fucking people over, you know, like especially
people
because
are just nefarious.
No, yeah, I mean that you can't. There's no accounting for people. No, but I think also, like one of the things that I told you is that I'm as I get older, I'm very skeptical of anything that I don't fully understand as an investment thing. And like, I would love to understand it, but it seems like even from what you're describing, you don't think of it as like an investment in the sense of like you wouldn't drop 10 grand on anything right now.
No. So like the thing that I spent the most money on recently in like the NFT space was actually like buying our own Ethereum node for like a project that I'm working on. And it's like, for me, that's just like buying data, right? Or like access to data infrastructure. And I'm like, to me, that seems like it's much more valuable than like someone I've never met telling me that like 10,000 coins are gonna be worth $1 million in like 2 years, you know? Like, so I'm like, if you can build stuff and you know how to build stuff in the same way that like for an artist, right, building a channel was like infrastructure for you, right? It was like data infrastructure. Like that's a great play. Obviously, you think it's paying off because we're invested in it here, and all this shit. But it's like, you know, taking that a step further, I think there's gonna be artists that find opportunity for that in Web3.
Web3. So then what you're buying is a URL in Web3. That's what...
So some of the NFTs that I am are like, there's many ways to invest though. Like you can be building actual infrastructure for the systems to run on. It's just a network, right? Like the internet. Or you can buy an NFT, or you can buy cryptocurrency, which is like the coins, right? So like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
So Ethereum is a coin, right?
Ethereum is a coin. Yeah. So it's a currency.
Can you see how perplexed I am?
I know, it's like the deeper we go into this rabbit hole, I can already imagine the viewers going down.
We're gonna have to end it soon, but okay. So then but I'm just trying to get a like, because you just said something and I don't get it, so I want to get that before we close. So
wait, which part are you confused on?
So is it what's the deal? Okay, you said you bought something that is going to build data infrastructure for you when Web3 comes out. So Web3 is all blockchain based?
Yeah, Web3 is just blockchain based. So it's just the architecture of blockchain that people refer to as Web3. Whether that's Ethereum or Bitcoin or anything, Web3 is all of it.
Okay, so Ethereum is the blockchain that you're building this
node, yeah.
This node.
So basically it's going to allow us to look at all that transactional detail and then be able to recall it and then pull it into databases to run inquiries on.
Okay.
So like if you wanted to find NFT holders that had X amount of NFTs that they're participating in from these types of communities with this much actual available funds to like invest in something, like you can then target that entire group without ever knowing like who that person is, and then like deliver them assets or opportunities like coupons or tickets or whatever. And same way that you have with email or anything like that, but it's just like a more anonymous way for the end user to have it.
Can you hop onto someone else's NFT and add functionality? Like, can I say like, yo, if you own Gary V's blah 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 blah, you get a free blowjob from me?
From your community? Yeah, you could add that in. Yeah,
but it's not it's his project, and I say based on if you own a Gary V blah blah blah, you get a blowjob from me. If you present, I can do that.
You just write that on a contract. So someone buying an NFT today, right, would be like, oh, anyone that's part of this target community from this like Gary Vee or whatever community that you're targeting, if they have that asset in their wallet, which has a certain identifier on it, and they have your identifier, right, this new NFT, blowjob NFT that they got from you, like, and there's a match there.
It's going to be a shitty one, by the way.
It's going to be a shitty one.
I've never done it before.
It's a growing community, you know.
But I'm not afraid to try.
Yeah. So it's like if you have that in place, then you'd be like, okay, they're a verified holder of this, they're a verified holder of mine. Here's your blowjob.
But I would have to sell my own separate NFT I couldn't just do it with only his. I would have to have my own community.
Yeah, you'd want to send something to them stating that on a contract, right? So saying like, if you have this plus this, you get this offer. Right?
But I couldn't just do, you get this because you have this. I couldn't just decide to blow everybody that has that NFT.
I mean, you can market to them. I don't know if they're gonna hit you up for it, but like.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, you could reach them. You could reach them.
Okay, but I can't. But then because I don't have access to the code in the NFT, I can't. I would have to make an additional contract. I can make a contract off of that, and I don't have to sell anything else other than the contract.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like you can't go into Gary's contract and then be like, "Yo, like I'm actually adding this perk to whatever you're doing." Like unless the actual author of that is doing it. So
hit me up, Gary.
Yeah, Gary, where you at? You want to go viral? Like here you go. So, anyways, but yeah, that is a use case.
That is a use case.
I don't know if that's number one on my list, but community.
I just want to blow. I just want to suck a lot of dick. Highbrow is what we keep it here.
It's performative art.
All right. Well, thank you for breaking all of that down to me. I think that we may have to do it again, like in 20 years.
Yeah.
Just so that I can be like, oh, that's what you said.
It's all so obvious now. I get it.
But yeah, I mean, I'm also playing a little dumber than I am. But I mean, there's not a lot of gap between my playing dumb and my like.
It's new for all of us. I don't think anyone should feel dumb in this space. It's like brand new. It's only really existed for like 10 years, and most people didn't even hear about it before last year. So it's like you're good.
Especially the NFT side. I didn't even know that was that old.
So funny enough, I actually like got into that whole world through Kenny Sharp, which is unlikely because he's like kind of like an old school artist, but he really was popping off with NFTs like in 2018. Like even before this whole thing, like just selling JPEGs of his murals, and that just became huge. And for them, it was awesome because they made a lot on the resale, right? Like people would start flipping them in like Asia and stuff, and he made a lot of residuals. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like seeing an artist that's also like a generation established already. It's like for him to be leading the charge on those technologies. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's a good time to dive in. And I'd never saw daylight after that.
No, it's interesting. I mean, hopefully someone got something out of that because, like, I mean, I'm still kind of a little bit baffled, but I'm hoping that like the Gen Zers are just sitting out there watching this episode.
They're like trading NFTs. They're like, I'm on it.
They're like, what the fuck don't you get, you dumbass? Which I'm okay with. I know my role in the generational ladder.
You're here to bring us together and talk about community on podcasts.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. You obviously have a few things to plug, so let's get into that. You have how many Instagrams? You have 2?
Well, Studio Hash, you can find me everywhere. So
Studio Hash.
YouTube, we just started a channel, so at Studio Hash there. Same thing with Instagram.
When you say we, do you do it like I do, where it's just me, but I say we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I use the excuse that I usually. I guess we is the brand.
We is the brand. We is the community. It's like me, whoever else is. Whoever's in the comments. You're part of the community, right?
Are you part of the comment now?
Yeah. Join the community. But yeah. So
do you own a Josh NFT? Please comment below.
Please comment below. If you want to put your wallet address below or hit us on a DM, I will get you an NFT if you're watching this video.
All right. Yeah.
You heard it here first. So.
I mean, you're gonna charge them how much?
No,
$1 billion
premium. Just like, subscribe, share.
Oh, what? This guy is hooking me up. Now you got to go to his YouTube channel.
Yeah. So studiohash.art is my site. Studio Hash is the YouTube, and then studiohash.art is Instagram as well. So you'll find me there.
Hashemzadeh?
Hashemzadeh. You had it every time up until the end.
It's the fucking. I shouldn't have tried. It's the syllables. I just did a phonetic.
It's good. And
I made it Latino too. Hashemzadeh.
There you go. It's very fluid.
Did we miss anything to plug for you?
I think we're all good. I'm plugged.
Oh, you're plugged. Okay, cool. Because sometimes I've missed stuff. And then I mean, you guys know me, so I'll be here next week again. We'll have another artist that will talk about another topic with. Oh no, wait, that's not how I do it. And come back next week. We'll have another artist with another topic that may or may not be art related.
Sounds good.
Thank you for doing the show, man. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. This is great.